Welcome, everyone, to the Commentary Podcast. I am your host, Pat Brennan. Today on the podcast, we have a special interview for you. I was very fortunate enough to sit down with someone who I have admired for just about 20 years now, and that person is Ben Mankiewicz. Now, for those that don't know, Ben is the primetime host of Turner Classic Movies. He's been there for over 20 years now. I remember watching him in my early high school years. So to be able to speak with him truly meant a lot to me. When I first started this podcast, the goal I had set out for myself was to hopefully interview people within the industry, whether it be actors, directors, anyone at Turner Classic Movies. Those that know me, know that I'm obsessed with Turner Classic Movies, and to get someone who has inspired me for 20 years on the podcast is truly a grateful moment for me. In addition to being the primetime host of Turner Classic Movies, Ben also hosts two podcasts, the Plot Thickens and Talking Pictures, which are both part of that Turner Classic Movie brand. These podcasts are two of my favorite podcasts, especially Talking Pictures. I could listen to 1,000 episodes of that. So hopefully he continues to do more of those seasons of that. And if you haven't checked them out, please go check them out. I will link all of those podcasts in the episode description. So I highly, highly recommend those podcasts. I know the suspense is probably killing you, so I won't make you wait any longer. Here is my interview with Ben Mankiewicz. I first wanted to acknowledge, just thank you for coming on here. You have been like on my screen for 20 years. Around like freshman year of high school, I think I discovered TCM. You were the first person I saw introducing, I believe it was All the President's Men.
So like 20 years ago, introducing All the President's
So I was like '06 probably era.
Yeah,
That's when I first started to get into movies. So that's when I first noticed you. It was like the first time I'd ever seen Turner Classic Movies. I didn't know.
Yeah,
I had heard of the channel.
I started in
But
2003. Yeah. So, and I was still doing, I was just doing weekend days in
yeah,
2006. Yeah.
because it was just you and Robert at that time, right?
Yeah. And it was really just Robert had every night of prime time. I just did Saturday and Sunday during the day for the first like at least 5 years or so that I was there, maybe longer.
Yeah, I remember seeing the intro because I at the time I was like, I've heard of this movie, never seen it. I just was starting to get into movies. Incredible movie. And then you popped up at the end, and I almost forgot that you were there in the beginning because I was just so locked in. And then after that entire experience, I was like, that was like I because I had never talked with movies like with other people about movies like that at the time, because I was like, didn't know that this is what I wanted to get into growing up. So that experience of just you being there in that moment really changed my life into wanting to pursue getting into movies and talking about movies with anyone I can.
So you didn't get the classic movie bug, the movie bug, whatever it is. You didn't get it from your folks. You sort of found it on your
No,
own.
my dad is growing up, he watched like 4 movies. It was Rudy, Hoosiers, Field
Right.
of Dreams,
Yeah.
and he weirdly liked all of the Bournes. So it was like the very strange group of 4 movies. But
That's
he was not a film guy.
it sounds like maybe he was a sports guy.
He's very much a sports guy.
Yeah, so am I. So am I. So I mean, I relate to all of his choices. The Bourne movies are excellent. So, well, not all of them, but the certainly the first 3 with
First 3, yeah.
are excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big supremacy guy.
I don't remember the Jeremy Renner one. I don't remember. I feel like I liked it okay, but it was just, it was sort of noted with not
Legacy,
Matt
I
Damon.
think. Yeah.
I don't know what it was
Yeah.
called. I don't know the title. I don't know the title of any movie, especially if it's like a thing like that where it's mostly the same title and they just change the word. I can't.
Yeah.
It puts me in a very difficult spot considering my job, but I'm always like the one with. That's how yeah. The one where he. Yeah, the one where they, yeah. Is that the one they get married in the end? Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, my mom was the one that took me to movies. She isn't as big into movies, but she would let me watch like The Matrix when I was like 7 on VHS. So she gave me some taste into what, like, yeah, I don't care, you can watch it. But I think as I got older, I was making short films in like high school. Were they good? No, but I had a camera and I had friends and we would do it. I think discovering TCM and seeing the intros that you and Robert would do led me to want to pursue to getting a degree in film. I went to Temple University in Philadelphia, got a degree there, moved out to LA about 10 years ago now. So I've been working in the industry for about 10 years. And I just want to thank you for that
Well,
moment in time.
well, it's nice. I mean, that Pat, that's what the channel is. That's like that's one of the great things the channel can do, right? I mean,
Mhm,
we know we provide this trip down memory lane for a lot of people, and nostalgically, and nostalgia is I think a pretty powerful. We think of it. I think of it anyway as an emotion,
mhm,
and it's a pretty powerful one. So I don't want to minimize it by saying nostalgia because that always feels like that means, a poster,
mhm.
or a pennant of your favorite
Yeah.
team or a movie, so, but nostalgia can be pretty powerful. So, but it's the other part of that is, man, the when somebody's young and finds it and gets them excited about movies, that's really thrilling. That's part of what the idea was when Robert agreed to come aboard. He had another offer at the time. He could have gone to AMC and been their number two host, but he
Mhm,
waited for this channel that was not yet on the air. TCM hired him before they were on the air with the sort of promise that he'd be the number one host and that they would do it right. And so that means a lot. That's great that he'd love to
mhm.
hear that story.
I wanted to talk about how you got to TCM. Was there like an audition process? Did they like reach out to you in any sense? Because you were a journalist in like South Carolina at that time,
I was in Miami then. Or,
Miami.
actually, I was out of Miami. I'd left Miami, and well, I'd left because they sold the station and turned it.
Hmm.
It became, uh, you know, uh, entirely home shopping. So there was not a
Hmm.
lot of wasn't a lot of opportunity. No, no, you know what? I have it backwards. It was home shopping. Barry Diller turned it into a hyper local station,
Hmm.
all local programming, and then he sold it to Univision, so it was entirely Spanish speaking. So, and I speak
Hmm.
a little Spanish, but Univision wasn't going to keep me aboard. Um, so yeah, I came out to LA and I auditioned for everything under the sun. I mean, I didn't want to do news anymore because that station in Miami was really wonderful, and it was not in any way traditional local news, and there was never going to be another opportunity like that. I mean, no one watched, by the way, but what we
Hmm.
put on was pretty good, and the people who did watch recognized that it was something
Hmm.
pretty special. And so I didn't want to go do local news. So I mean, I wanted to be a talk show host, I'm a game show host. I love game shows, always did. I sort of, the notion that I could work at TCM seemed far fetched to me. So they
Hmm.
reached out, but only really because of the traditional way. I mean, they reached out to agencies, and my agent at the time, recommended me, as she probably did other clients that she had as well. And I auditioned with a large group of people, like 12 other people, and it was for hours. It was the one of the most significant auditions I'd ever done, in that it wasn't just me walking into a sterile room and reading the rules of an incomprehensibly difficult to understand game show. Where, it was just baffling, and you'd be like, now, how do I pronounce your name? Vikash?
Vakash.
Vikash, even better. Should have gone with that. So yeah, where you'd be like, all right, Vikash, you'll have the first question. If you miss it, Pat will get a chance to steal. If he fails to steal, you can come back and get the question. You'll get 3 bonus points, but of course you won't have had any points in the beginning, so it'll be really your first 3 points. Then you will control and you're like, just play, man, like whatever. And so I got this TCM audition. There were like 12 other people there, a bunch of actors among them, and not like super successful actors, but I'd
Hmm.
like recognized a couple people from like who'd been in commercials, who were like big faces in commercials in 2003. And this was a great process because all the other auditions, again, you come in, there's a sterile room, a casting director, maybe an assistant, maybe somebody to read lines with you, and you stare into a camera, and it's a cold room, and there's a cue card with all these rules, which you can't possibly have memorized. And so you're kind of looking at the cue card. It's like not even in front behind the camera. Like it was so bad. Like no wonder I didn't get anything. My respect for actors, which I already had, but I didn't quite get what they went through, right?
Hmm.
And how much of yourself you have to give up in an audition, and how revealing it is, and how the rejection is, no matter how you slice it, entirely personal. It's always like, we don't like this part, the face where you talk and your eyes. That's not working for us. It was always if the show went to somebody who was totally unlike me, I was like relieved. I'm like, okay, well, they
Hmm.
wanted something totally different, so I'm okay.
Yeah.
But the TCM thing was, they wanted to. Robert was doing his normal hosting at night. They had discovered through some research that we have a pretty big audience on the weekends during the days, right? Basically, it's people who want to watch television but don't want to watch sports, right? And as much as I love sports, I acknowledge that it's a pretty big audience, and so
Hmm.
there was a big audience there, and we thought if we hire someone to curate the intros on those days, it'll be good. But we didn't want to do just what Robert did. We do the, and I guess they didn't. I wasn't even aboard then. But their initial decision, at least as far as that audition was that they were thinking of bringing that the weekends would be all with a guest. Like you'd be a host, but you'd bring in, Robert Wise's daughter or grandson. Right, and
Hmm.
where possible, you'd bring in someone like Robert Wise if they were still around, and you'd show some of their movies and talk about them, right? And that would be,
Hmm.
and so they had us watch the Magnificent Seven and the Seven Samurai and be able to sort of, I'm going to sound like I'm in seventh grade, compare and contrast. And I watched it. I just spent more time prepping for than any audition, and I was also a pretty good broadcaster, and so and the others were mostly actors, and that's not a broadcasting and acting are different, so they weren't,
Hmm.
so I think it was pretty apparent, so first they'd have me be the host and they'd have two people as guests and then they'd switch it and I'd be a guest. But almost like after about two or three run throughs, when they had different groups coming in, I was in every one of them. Like they were like, okay, now you be the guest. Now you be the host now you be the host with one person. Like it was pretty clear that I had done well. I didn't know whether it was going to turn
Hmm.
into something. But no other audition was like that. So it really gave you a chance to, not feel like if you made one mistake that they determined that that wasn't you. And I was really struck by how many of the other guests were unable to talk about the movies. I mean, I was no expert in these movies, but I could sound a little bit like one. And I knew, and they were like, well, one of them was in Japanese. You'd be like, yeah, yeah, um, uh-huh. That's right. Good point. And the other one's in English. You know that, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So, like I remember I made the point that when John Sturges directed The Magnificent Seven, it's a very basic point, but when John
Mm.
Sturges directed The Magnificent Seven, it was, remaking Kurosawa's as a Western. Right. But that Kurosawa's movie was initially a salute to the John Ford Westerns. It's like
John.
pretty basic.
Hmm.
Like you don't have to read very far to find that.
Yeah.
And I made that point, and it was like it stopped the room, right? They were like, "Oh, wow!" Like the other people, I didn't realize that. I'm like, I just read it. That's all I did. I just read. I did a little reading for this. And that. So anyway,
Amazing.
that got me a second audition. And by the time the second audition came, which was like 6 weeks later, and it was down to three people. I've now since learned, three or four, and including the I don't know if he was a finalist, the Verizon, the guy who was like,
Can
can
you
you
hear
hear
me
me now?
now?
Can
Yeah,
you hear me now?
that guy,
Wow.
that guy. He was at least in the first group. I don't know, and
Wow.
he's good. Like
Yeah.
he created a little character. It was good. He's good
Uh-huh.
at what he does. And and then, but by then they had just decided. I came in and I read an intro to the bishop's wife, and I didn't change a word. I mean, I literally may have changed a word or two just to, but I was too nervous to do anything, and I read it. But I'd been working in news. I'd been an anchor. Like
Hmm.
I know how to read a
Yeah.
teleprompter. um, but that, and I finished it, and the guy went in first take, and again, the words are on the screen. You're just reading aloud. And the guy running the audition, who was not there by the time I got hired, but he'd been there a long time, been there 20 years. He said, "This is not. I can see this is not your first barbecue." He didn't say rodeo. He said barbecue. I'd not heard barbecue before.
Yeah, I never heard that either.
And I thought, wow, yeah, no, it isn't. I've read aloud before. So it was nice. It was just a good set of circumstances. Got very lucky. And then a funny story. Then I came home, said I lived out here in LA. I got here in 2001. This was 2003. I'd worked like a bunch of freelance jobs, but I basically
Hmm.
hadn't worked in a year and a half or 2 years. 2 years hadn't worked a regular job. And I got paid like the first 6 months. I still had some leftover contract, but I'd been 18 months, like, where I got that thing from Social Security. I made like $14,000 one of those years, and then 18 the next year. And so I had to go back to, I was going to have to get a job in local
Yeah.
news or change careers. And, but anyway, I got home and, and she asked how it went. And I said, I think it went well. I go, I don't really know. I did fine. I read a teleprompter. I read it once. I wanted to do it again. Maybe they let me have a second pass. I don't know. But I wasn't there very long. I just read it and they were like, great, that's good. They wanted to see obviously that somebody could do the basic
Hmm.
task of a TCM host. And then I said, let's turn on TCM. And if member of my family had anything to do with this movie, I'll get this job. Anything to do with this movie, like just even, you know. And I go, and I'm not a crazy, I don't believe in this stuff. I can't jinx it.
Mm-hmm.
I go, and if there's nothing to do with if there's no Mankiewicz involved, which is the overwhelming likelihood, I'm not saying I won't get it. I'm just saying I will if a Mankiewicz had something to do with this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And we turned it on. This is the great thing with me in titles. I'm not going to forget the movie. Humphrey Bogart, Ava Gardner.
A Barefoot Contessa.
Barefoot Contessa. By the way,
yeah,
that's the name of my first wife, Contessa. You would think that would be a title that I could pull out, since I've told the story, I don't know, 4,000 times to people because it's so cool. Anyway, so I turn on and I see a tight shot of Bogart and then a shot of Ava, and this is 2003. So the name of the title is not on the screen, at least on my cable sits wasn't there. Yeah. So we turned it on. It's just on. And I'm like, we had DirecTV, channel 206. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Right. I go, what? I don't remember. I guess you look it up. And I'm like, I think this is the Barefoot Contessa. This movie was written and directed by Joe. I'm like, wow, I just said if Mankiewicz had anything to do with it, he definitely had something to do with this movie. And I was like, wow, that's cool. And then, whatever, a few weeks later, I got the job. So
that's incredible.
Yeah, it was great. It was I mean, it's just so many things aligned. If they'd had there's a good chance if they just had me read a prompter right off the bat, that, I mean, again, I was okay at that. So I might've still gotten it, but the fact that they gave me an opportunity you really got a chance to show your personality in that back and forth with the other people, pretending to be an expert, or pretending to be the filmmaker, the child of a filmmaker, something. It was just, you had a chance to be funny. You had a chance to tell a story and the cadence that you had a chance to show a little of me, which that station in Miami had given me, and which many of those 99% of those other auditions, and I had over 100 of them, 150 auditions that I didn't get. Some of them I was a finalist for, but I didn't get any of them. It was just a whole different experience. And I think if they hadn't had that, I wouldn't have gotten the job. So it was just, and by the way, and then the fact that they had this idea and then in between the auditions, they ditched it. Like, it just seems incredibly fortunate that those circumstances aligned and gave me an opportunity to take advantage of the situation.
Great story. Amazing. I wanted to ask, you were lucky enough to be on the letterbox when they asked you top 4 films when you were at the TCM Film Festival.
Oh yeah.
You actually said 5.
I did.
I cheated. You cheated.
Yeah.
You mentioned 3 Days of the Condor.
I just want to point out the reason I cheated was that I didn't want to I thought it was lame to have, don't get me wrong, I love George Clooney, but I thought it was lame to have 2 George Clooney movies in 4. Like, I'm the TCM host, I can't have 2 George Clooney movies, but I didn't want to leave out, Michael Clayton or
Out of Sight.
Out of Sight.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I'm going to title of my favorite book.
Yes, 3 Days of the Condor, Casablanca, Paths of Glory, and you mentioned Out of Sight and Michael Clayton. And I wanted to acknowledge that me and Vikash are the biggest fans of Michael Clayton. We try to get everyone to watch that movie. I watch it about 3 or 4 times a year.
Me too.
I think it's the best script of the 21st century, one of the best scripts of all time.
Yep.
I just wanted to get your thoughts on why Michael Clayton means so much to you.
Well, it is a perfect script. I mean, it's not a perfect script because there's one problem with it. And it's one of the beauties of when movies work, because the manner in which, I won't spoil it for those who haven't seen it, although I suspect people who listen to this podcast that have already been beaten over the head with they should see Michael Clayton. So, but the moment of truth at the end of the movie where the bad guy gets got, right? It's pretty lame. Like, it's not up to the perfect layering of the rest of the movie. Like, I recorded you, haha, right? Like there's a little bit of like, it's not as, but it doesn't matter because you are so committed at that point to Michael, right? This flawed, very strange hero. I think that's another reason there aren't a lot of heroes like Michael Clayton. With Clooney playing him. I mean, even though this was very much in the era of, the post Tony Soprano era on television where we have all these flawed heroes, there was nothing evil about this guy. He was just sort of a sellout a little bit, like so many people. But, I mean, he was making a living at the manner in which he knew how, and he was trying to be loyal to his friends. He actually was kind of heroic, but he was also broken in some ways. So he was pretty easy to root for. And he was also smarter than everyone else, right? Which is all, without ever acting like he was smarter than everyone else, right? The only person he wasn't smarter than was Tom Wilkinson, who recognized his brilliance, but also his shortcomings. And I think Tom Wilkinson's performance as a guy who loses
Yeah.
a lawyer, a brilliant lawyer who loses his mind and finds his soul sort of simultaneously is one of the greatest. It's as good a performance on film as you can have, I think. It's just
Oh,
and
yeah.
that line where he sort of dresses Michael down when he finds him. Michael, you lead a interesting life, you know. You lead something and an interesting life, but you're not an attorney. You're a bagman. It's really, really good. It's a great scene. And Michael's and Clooney is such a really fine actor, and his hearing that, right, from this guy he admires probably more than anybody else in the world. Like he's crushed to hear it, but there's that thing he does with his eyes where he's like, oh my God, it's also true.
Yeah.
Like he knows if this guy is observing this about me, it's true.
Mm-hmm.
And Tilda Swinton's one of the great villains. I mean, he's got a scene she's in the bathroom stall where she has just made this hideous decision.
Oh,
She
yeah.
smells her armpits, which I feel like was almost certainly not in the screenplay. I feel like I don't know if Tony Gilroy said, what if we did this? But I imagine she was like, what would a person who just made this decision to order a murder, who'd never done anything like this and couldn't imagine them doing, what would they do when they would see, they would check to see if there were, if somehow there was the scent of criminality,
scent of guilt
was oozing off of them. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Right. The scent of guilt is better. Yeah.
For the other movies, like 3 Days of the Condor, Casablanca, were those movies that inspired you growing up to pursue possibly coming into the film area?
I was not confident enough or presumptuous enough to think, and I don't mean that there's an unpleasant presumption to it. I'm just saying for me that I would be in the film industry. I mean, I know my family had been, but that was irrelevant growing up. And I mean, entirely irrelevant. My father was in politics. That was the family business. I honestly thought that was the main family business, that no one could be more famous than my father. And that, this other part of the family did movies, but whatever. I didn't quite realize that my dad was the offshoot, not the main part. I never considered it. I knew it would be cool, but I always thought I'd be an actor. I didn't really know what directors did. I didn't think I had the patience to be a screenwriter. That degree of self-starting and, guaranteeing that you're going to work diligently for 3 hours a day or 5 hours a day or whatever it is. I didn't have that discipline. I sort of took easy ways out, which was the thing I'm good at this thing on TV of being a reporter. I didn't necessarily love it. Love it. I didn't necessarily love it. I liked being on TV. I liked telling stories. So I feel like I got lucky. So the movies didn't so much inspire me as I just loved them. But yeah, I grew up in DC. It just didn't seem like that was possible. And I'd be entering, as I got older, then I'd be entering this world as a Mankiewicz trying to make movies. And that scared me to sort of directly follow in the steps of people who'd been, so successful, even though, Joe had been dead 10 years by the time I got the job. And growing up, Joe was somewhat of a tragic figure, this sort of formerly successful director who had writer's block. I mean, he couldn't write we're telling the story right now on our Cleopatra podcast. The last episode comes out this week, or the week we're taping this. Joe couldn't answer mail. I mean, he couldn't write, and really, even though he made movies after Cleopatra is what clearly did that to him. The effect of the challenges of that production and the sort of shame he felt about it. All stuff that is silly now. Like he shouldn't have felt shame. He should actually be pretty proud that he got through it, given the circumstances. But he hung. They were, his other 19 movies. As you walked up the stairs, his house in Bedford, as his daughter Alex says, there were posters of all his movies, 19 of the 20 movies, and then there was one that you just didn't talk about. Nobody had to say you don't talk about it.
Yeah,
it just clearly made him sad, so nobody talked about it. And Herman had been dead since 1953, and and Tom Mankiewicz obviously was successful, but I mean, Tom's like my dad's cousin. Like, I don't know. I just didn't seem like that's pretty far connection. I didn't think people were gonna, but to enter it and try to. So anyway, I both think we're overstating how famous we were, but also it's felt like, I knew I wasn't as literate, as well read. I didn't think I was as smart as those guys, and that I would be dooming myself to, alarming ordinariness at best if I tried to be in the business. I regret that manner of thinking. But everything worked out. I mean, I got lucky. Totally. I mean, I got lucky, and then I took advantage of the luck. There's no question. I mean, I seized the luck, but I got lucky.
Hmm. Would you say of
But
the
by the way,
five
just
films?
real quick, 3 Days of the Condor, and
Yeah.
there's a Sidney Pollack connection because Pollack directs it, and then Pollack is in Michael Clayton. But
Yeah.
to me, it's the
Yep.
same kind of movie. Just one's about business, and the other's
Hmm.
about the
Yeah.
CIA. But it's the same,
Yep.
same kind of movie. A
Same
guy
movie.
isolated on his own, trying to solve a problem before it gets out of control, and ultimately
Hmm.
he didn't quite realize it, but put himself at risk. Redford obviously knows immediately that he's in danger.
And then
Um,
Karen and Jack are talking about they're talking about it in the trunk in Out of Sight on top of that.
Right, that's right. And Out of Sight,
yeah.
they're also referring. So, I
Hmm.
mean, I see a direct through line to Michael Clayton and 3 Days of the Condor, but the Out of Sight 3 Days of the Condor connection is pretty obvious. Condor is a pretty perfect movie for me too. And I know when I get people to watch it, they're like, I didn't quite understand it. And I get mad. I'm like, what's not to understand? There was a CIA inside the CIA. Yeah. Which, by the way,
I'll admit, yeah.
of course, there is a CIA inside the CIA. There's
Yeah.
probably 40 CIAs inside the
Oh, yeah.
CIA.
So would you say with Three Days of the Condor and Casablanca, like what is Casablanca like? Is that the staple for you for classic Hollywood?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a cop out because it's an easy answer, but I mean,
Yeah.
that's a movie I've seen probably more than this movie we've aired on TCM more than any other movie. I think I've probably seen it more than any other movie, although pieces of Shawshank Redemption are in there because of its ubiquity on television uh,
Mm,
in the 90s and early part of the 21st century. But Casablanca always makes me, it just moves me. Every scene after
mm,
scene after scene moves me. Right from the beginning, I'm moved by it. And, Bogey nodding to the band because they want to play La Marseillaise, but when Victor Laszlo asks for it, they're caught up in the moment. They want to play it, but he's their boss, and he's still the man. He's still the decider, and they're like, "Boss," it's just a look. And I guess I have a tough time believing this is true, but I did read that Curtiz shot the nod, just told Bogey to, you move up here, we're going to take it, where the camera's going to pan over to you, look at the camera, nod. And there was no spot in the script for that. But
mm.
Curtiz thought somewhere I might want to nod, and it ended up there. It ended up in this perfect place. I like that story. Um, but either way, it's the greatest nod in movie history.
I agree. I actually have a weird connection to Casablanca. So my grandfather, when he was in his early teens, actually dated Claude Rains' daughter
Oh,
for a
nice.
little bit. So I like to think it was always somewhat in my blood that I was going to get here somehow.
Because your grandfather dated Claude
Yeah.
Rains' daughter. That's
Yep.
awesome.
Yep.
There's a
So
story about
this.
there's a story about Claude Rains' daughter and like the Hillside Strangler, a L.A.
Oh, I
mass
didn't know
murderer
this.
that I might have the actual, I might not be identifying the perpetrator
Hmm.
correctly, but an L.A. a famed L.A. mass killer pulled. I don't know if it's the same daughter. I don't know if he has more than one, but pulled Claude Rains' daughter over. He masqueraded as a policeman and he pulled people over
Wow.
and he pulled her over, but he recognized the last name and he liked Claude Rains, and they talked for a minute about Claude Rains, and he did,
Wow.
and no attempt at a crime was committed.
That's
So
crazy.
I don't know if it's the same person. I don't, but I know I heard that story with some manner of authority, but and it's entirely
Hmm.
possible.
I'll have to tell my
Wow.
grandfather that. I don't think I did not know
Yeah.
that. That's so to wrap it up here, I know on your Talking Pictures podcast you have the Super 8. I wanted to play a little game here. I'm going to give you three actors and you just tell
Okay.
me their favorite roles. So
Very,
first up is Robert Mitchum.
very tempting to. Uh, I love Holiday Affair. I do.
Hmm.
Because like what kind of department store clerk looks like Robert Mitchum,
That's
right?
right.
Out of the Past is pretty perfect. Obviously, it's one of it's sort of it's you can make a pretty powerful argument that it's the best
Hmm.
noir there is, and that is Mitchum being his most Mitchumy. Charles Lawton's movie Night of the Hunter
Yeah.
is pretty great, but that that villainous Mitchum is that feels to me, even though it's great and I love it, that feels like a performance, like because
Hmm.
that guy is so crazy, right? That I feel
Yeah.
like it's easier to play than his gas station owner in Out of the Past.
Hmm.
But I think if I had to pick one, just because of the era, that I might fall back to Friends of Eddie Coyle. I think that's
Hmm.
probably my favorite Mitchum movie. Like that's to me a pretty perfect, alarming, and great movie. which
Mhm.
I've only seen, I think, two times. But I should watch it again today. But Friends of Eddie Coyle from, I think, 73 is pretty perfect.
Mhm. So the next one is Barbara Stanwyck.
Barbara Stanwyck, we just did 40 Guns. I think that's what it's called. I think that was
Mhm.
Spielberg picked that, and then it didn't air right. So we had to air it again, which has now happened twice, which is terribly embarrassing. But it was, I mean, Double Indemnity is pretty perfect. I mean, it is not pretty perfect. It's perfect. So wait, Holiday Affair. Wait, which one is? No, hers is Remember the Night. Remember the Night is pretty great. That's her and Fred McMurray.
Mhm.
The one that, I mean, I get to make the same joke basically every time I go. Fred McMurray's a district attorney. She's a shoplifter. They meet. And then on a drive, and then inexplicably, because it's a Hollywood movie, he lets her out of jail over Christmas and they drive to his home in Indiana where they plan to kill her husband to get the insurance money. I go, oh, I'm sorry. What's that? Wrong movie. Sorry. Ron Fred McMurray, Barbara Stanwyck movie. Ball of Fire is obviously great, but there's a special place in my family's home for Christmas in Connecticut, and I think it's I love that film. We watch it every year, if not more than once a year. And she's I mean again, you want to look at what it is to be an actor, like do Double Indemnity and then Christmas in Connecticut, and
Mhm.
tell me there was anybody better than her. Got into an argument with somebody on Twitter not long ago. Fun argument. It was the kind of argument I like. It was one of the rare good conversations on Twitter, which is a
Hard to come by.
hellscape right now.
Yeah.
But it was like he said, "Hey, TCM has got the best star of the month, Barbara Stanwyck." This is maybe in June or something like that, and she was no. He said she was no Joan Crawford or Betty Davis, but really a fine actor. And I was like, I'm just saying, I'm not knocking Joan or Betty. I think Barbara's best actor there, best actress of that era,
Mhm.
and arguably best actor of that era. I'm not Betty certainly in the running. Joan at her best, no question, also, but I don't think Barbara Stanwyck takes a backseat to anyone, and that's you Double Indemnity and Christmas in Connecticut sort of prove it. I mean,
Mhm.
my favorite Elvis movie, whatever it's called, is the one with Barbara Stanwyck, and it's because Barbara Stanwyck's in it. And there's these scenes with Barbara Stanwyck and Elvis, and she's just so cool. And she's got to be 55 years old at this point,
Mhm.
But I would, if in a pinch, I'll go with Christmas in Connecticut because it's special to me.
And then lastly, my favorite actor of all time, Cary Grant.
Terry Grant. Oh, Cary Grant. You put Cary. I was
Terry.
like, I knew. God damn, these guys asked me about an actor. I don't know Terry Grant. Damn it! How am I going to get out of
It's
this?
his brother. It's his brother.
Yeah, I didn't even. But the good news is, I was like, I'm not even going to ask him to repeat it. Probably said Cary Grant. Yeah, Cary Grant again, a sort of a victim of playing that character so well that the fact that he got two Oscar nominations and no wins is insane. I mean, playing his greatest role was playing Cary Grant, right? Turning himself
Mhm.
into this, which he acknowledged. So, man, there's a lot. What did we just air? What's the one with which I don't, it's not my favorite Hitchcock. What's the one with him and Joan Fontaine? Suspicion, right?
Yeah, suspicion. Yeah.
With the milk with the light bulb in it.
Mhm.
That's not it. You know what I love? I mean, I love a zillion of them. I could easily just say North by Northwest and end this
That's mine.
conversation. That would be a totally logical answer. And that's one of my favorites. I have is it here somewhere? Oh, that's too bad. It's not in my office, or if it is, I don't know where it is. We just moved back to a house and I don't know where anything is. But I have a little box that has, Roger Thornhill and what was Eva Marie Saint's name in the movie? Offhand, do you know?
Top of my
But
head.
it's a wedding announcement of Roger Thornhill and Eve Marie's
Oh,
character. I think her name was Eve in the movie.
Eve. Yeah,
Yeah,
Eve. Yeah.
yeah, and so it's fun little thing to have. What's the one with? See, this is great. This is getting a little fun into my head. I just I'm gonna look it up so I don't make too many embarrassing mistakes. No, what's the Raymond Massey? Raymond Massey, Cary Grant. There's an and in the title. This is great.
Arsenic and lace.
Arsenic and
Arsenic
Old
and
Lace.
Lace.
I told
Yeah.
you there was an old and.
And
Old lace, yeah.
So Arsenic and Old Lace, I think is just brilliant. I mean, it's
Mhm.
legitimately
Yeah.
scary. There's a moment when the body's and by the window and he's going to check on the body, and then all of a sudden Raymond Massey is outside the window. That is a legit scream moment in a movie. So it's like tense, but it's also Cary Grant as charming and funny as he possibly can be. And I have a soft spot in that. But if you give me some time, there aren't really any Cary Grant movies. I love Charade. Um,
Yeah.
there aren't many Cary Grant movies that aren't worth watching. I mean, I don't really love Gunga Din, uh,
Yeah.
but I love everything he does in it. Everything, right?
True. Yeah. Mm.
And I don't not love it. I just mean
You don't seek it
I don't seek it
compared to
out.
the
It's a
others.
harder
Yeah.
watch than I sort of expect. But but then again, His Girl Friday certainly competes there. I think Carrie, I'm more likely than to get away from North by Northwest or Charade, but to get into true sort of funny Cary Grant because he was just he was gifted. And when there was, Philadelphia Story. I don't know, man. It's tricky. It's tricky.
It's hard. It's
Like
hard.
it's hard. It's true with Cary Grant, like an actor. I mean, it's true with Barbara Stanwyck too, but with all these people. But it's like hard to make a top 10 Cary Grant list. And I don't like lists in general because of the fact that you make a top 10 list. Like I did a top 25, like because it was the beginning of college basketball season or college football season, and I was writing stuff for the Huffington Post, and I wanted to, and Springsteen had a new album out, and it was like top 25 for me, Springsteen songs, and immediately it's like song 26 is like you don't like, and I'm like, no, I could do 278 Springsteen songs that I love, right? So, and so with Cary Grant. You like whatever you put the top 10 and somebody's going to be like, how could you leave out Suspicion? Why do you hate Suspicion? But carrying Ingrid Bergman down the stairs in Notorious. Notorious is great, man. And that's as tense a scene to me as any Hitchcock scene of him carrying Ingrid Bergman down the stairs. And we're just wondering whether Claude Rains or his mom is going to say something. Like nobody has a gun, but is he going to say something? Which could get them killed, but would also end up sabotaging both Rains and his mom, so they say nothing, but it's really tense, and I love that film, and he's very charming in that too. But I'll stick with either Our Second Old Lace or His Girl Friday or The Philadelphia Story.
I'm a North by Northwest guy, but I think Arsenic's his best performance for me.
Oh, you do? All right, good. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I wasn't sure that North by Northwest he's it's thrilling and he's perfect, and I love that no person I've met in this business more fun to be around than Eva Marie Saint. So,
well, as we wrap up, I just wanted to thank you so much for coming on here, just taking the time to talk to me. This is a big thing for me. I saw you for 20 years on a screen. Now I'm seeing you on a screen, but I'm actually talking to you. So this has been a huge thing for me, and I just want to thank you so much.
Well, I'll just say this so what is it? We're taping this. It's like the middle of August, and 1 year from now, I'll have it'll be 1 year from now it'll be the middle of August. I don't know if you guys know that's how that works. But like by next September, certainly I will have. I've been at TCM 23 years. I've been at TCM longer than Robert Osborne.
Oh wow!
And that blows my mind. That this job that I got, we talked about at the beginning, that at the time I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I got this. This is the best thing I auditioned for. I didn't think it would turn into this. Didn't imagine that it would define my career, and that I've been there as long as the guy who is forever the GOAT and the legend, and the guy who really made this a job, right? Figured out how this is a thing that people want, with some credit to Bob Dorian at AMC too. But they really, Robert was the standard bearer of this, and to have been at TCM, to have a chance now to be at TCM longer than he was. And of course, I hope, that'll be 23 years. I'd like to hit 30. I'd like to hit 40, Shit, like did 50. What do I care? What am I talking about? Yeah. I got something to better be doing in 27 years. I don't think so. So,
well, I just want to thank you once again. Everything you do at TCM, it means a lot to me. It's like a comfort channel for me. And I just want to thank you so much again.
Oh, thanks to both of you. I appreciate it. It was fun talking to you.
This podcast is hosted and edited by Pat Brennan. That's Me, with intro and closing music by Patrick Baxter.